Hi everybody. Welcome to another episode of Tax Flow to Cash Flow. I'm your host, Denise Givan, the tax strategist, and today we are flipping the script on what it means to reset. I have a special guest in the studio with me today, Nicole Richardson, one of my longtime friends. And she is a perfect example of what it means to reset and rise. So if you are a high school graduate, college student, or college graduate, or even a small business owner, this episode is for you. We're going to dive deep in what it truly means to reset and rise. So let's jump right in. So Nicole, what was your initial reaction to when you were let go from your job?
So initially, I have to be honest with you, I was heartbroken. I was, the emotions that I was feeling on that day, I was angry, I was sad, I was, like I said, heartbroken really, because of the fact that, as I was a dedicated person, right? I put my all into my job and I did it to the best of my ability. And I felt that, all of that was for naught really, at that time. And I felt really truly at that time I was really kind of in a vulnerable place where I really truly was broken, right? And I felt at that time that okay, what am I going to do now, right? Was the initial question that I was at, because of course I am a mother, right? And a wife as well too. And then at that time my mother was living with us, a daughter, so I had to really sit with myself and reflect once I got over the initial shock, right? Because that's really what it was like the rug had been ripped up under me, right? And I fell, or I was kept falling. And so at that time, what I had to do was really, really look into myself, really take the solitude that even though I'm broken, right? And really sit with your emotions. That's the other thing. Really, truly feel your emotions, but don't just stay there. I think a lot of times we make the mistake, and I say a lot of times us, but I'm really talking about myself. I can make the mistake of, like really, really trying to sit in your feelings. It's okay to feel what you're feeling and acknowledge that, but don't just sit in that space, especially if it's a negative space, a negative area, right? That's going to keep you from moving. And like I said, I was broken, right? But when I went to this revival, that it was a revivalist that came to our church, and she's talked about the crayon, right? When you think about a crayon, you break it and you have that crayon, right? But the crayon can still color, right? And the crayon can still be used. And that's the thing about it. Your life is not a waste after a detour or whatever life has thrown towards you, right? You can still move forward, but you just have to understand that whatever has transpired, whatever it is, a detour, or whether it is like in my case, a loss of a job, you got to remember that's not the end. It's the reset, and that's the reason why this series really resonates with me, because of the fact that I am all about looking at, even though there's loss, looking at what's ahead and looking at the overall big picture, and remembering that there's a greater perspective than what is actually going on right now. And so it's not that it's the end, but rather it's the next beginning of a new chapter. And we have to be ready to kind of look at the big picture so that you can be able to embrace that. And that's something that I had to do.
So I know it wasn't easy because, like you said, you mentioned before, you do it right everywhere you go. Ever since I've known you, you've always done it the right way. You always been, you always check every box. Now me, not so much, but you to hear your story is so inspiring. So let me ask you this: when did you really realize that I don't even have a next step? I don't even have a plan for the next step. And how did you react, or how did you process that?
That's a great question, Denise, because I try to, like you said, I try to plan everything, right? And that's true. How do you plan for the unplanned, or you plan the unplanned, right? Something that you really didn't see that was happening. But again, and I have to go there. I know a lot of people, but I can't, my faith is what really, really pulled me through. But I had to trust the one really who has my whole life plan, right? That knew this before it even happened, right? And so basically, how did I handle that was I really had to go back to the basics, right? Once I found out that I didn't have a plan, that I didn't know what my next step was, what I was going to do, right? I had to go back to the basics. And when I say the basics, that is my prayer. Not that I wasn't praying, but really, now I had the time. Really taking the time to really sit with God, and not just me speaking to Him and talking to Him all the time, but now me actively listening and hearing. And so that also included journaling, right? Sitting in solitude, sitting in that silent space, and really being open up to hear, so that I could be able to know, what the next step or what the next move I should even make, right? And so that's how I kind of took that, the thing that happened that was unplanned and look at, okay, hey, I need to, see what else is next, right? What am I going to do, right? And so that's how I handle that part, yeah.
Well, listen, I'm gonna say this. For me, being let go from jobs was like a norm for me. I always got fired. You know why? Because I knew deep down that I wasn't supposed to be building their empire.
Right.
I knew I was supposed to be building my own.
Right.
But like you said, I'm a wife, I'm a mother. I had to provide,
Yes.
So me and my husband, we had to learn how to make it work,
Right.
So, but getting fired for me was a norm. And when they said, Denise, we no longer need you. And I was like, oh, good. Because my son got to track me tomorrow and I ain't want to have to tell him how I'm going to take off. But to say that, the reason I'm sharing this is because for me, being letting go multiple times, it wasn't a shock for me. But let me ask you this. So what advice would you give someone in your position? Because let me tell you what my advice before you give me your answer. I would, if someone come to me and say, Denise, I've been let go from my job. A lot of my clients do it all the time. Like, what can I do? What do I need to do? And the first thing I say, and I'm not sarcastic with it, I say, congratulations. Because for me, and I don't want it to sound like I'm against working in a corporate America. I'm not against it at all.
Right.
If that's what works for you.
Right.
But when people come and they're let go, it was for a reason. And I always say, well, congratulations. And some people get mad at me. But I'm serious when I say that. So now the advice I would give is, what's next? So what advice would you give someone if they come to you or just our listeners? What advice do you give them on starting over and making sure that they put all their ducks in a row just like you did? I mean, the way you doing it might not be for someone else, but tell me a little bit about that advice you would give someone.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm so glad you asked that question. And you also, in your advice that you would give about, looking at, saying it congratulations, right? And I know it's kind of rhetorical funny, but it is seriously, because of the fact that you have to realize that whatever it is, we're talking about loss of a job, right? There could be loss of a marriage. It could be loss of even in your health, right? But you have to realize that even in those situations that happen, right? In order to look at the fact that one thing you have to keep in mind is it's not the end. I think that's what a lot of people, and I'm including myself, right, feel that, oh wow, it's over. But no, it's not over. You have to look at, this is a next chapter. What's next? Because I'm truly a firm believer that when one door closes, there is another door that is open or is about to get ready to be open, right? And you're on a journey and on a different path. You're being redirected. It's sort of like, how we have construction all over Houston, right?
Yes, right.
You're on one roadway, right? And the street may be blocked. And what do you have to do? You have to make the detour, right? And so don't be afraid of, and this is the advice that I would give, it may be painful, yes. And I've experienced that where it is painful and it is hard. But don't be painful where you're missing out or you miss the detour, because the detour is not a dead end. The detour is to get you back to, it may be another different path than what you were taking, but get you back to the journey that you were meant to be all along. And so that is one of the things that I want to point out and want to share with our listeners.
Girl, I'm really enjoying this conversation because you know you and I, we go on and on and on. But I do have one more question. How can you trust yourself again after being blindsided and like now that you're on another path? How can you trust yourself to go in wholeheartedly like you were at your job?
So for me, I'm glad you asked that question. When you talk about trust, it's about, really having that confidence, I feel, in yourself and also in others to realize, and in someone else. And for me, I'm going to take a step back here. For me, the trust I have to do is I really don't, and when I say this, I know it's going to sound, really rhetorical, but I really don't trust myself, right? I have to trust God, right? And I have to trust and rely on Him to know that the path that I'm taking on this journey that He's leading me on, right, is going to be okay. Even though I don't see the end, right, even though I don't know how it's going to come out, but I know that I have to trust Him because He's the one that has my future, right, in His hands, right? And so also you have to trust yourself that you are capable, you are equipped, you are able to do whatever it is that you desire to do, right? So you have to really look at yourself, and sometimes it's self-talks. A lot of times, we talk to ourselves. At least I talk to myself, right?
Do you answer?
And sometimes I do answer back. I know my grandma used to say, yes, you talk to yourself, just don't answer back. But sometimes you do. It's about really, like I said, really trusting in the Lord, and then also really having that confidence, because that's where the trust comes in. When you have that confidence, just like we came here today, we had the confidence that we were going to do this podcast. We have the confidence that we're sitting in this chair, right?
Exactly.
It's going to continue to hold us upright. Confidence in our team here. But basically, having that confidence to know that you already have, and that's the thing I think we got to understand. When things happen and you feel like, oh, I need this or I'm missing this, you got to have the confidence and know that it's already there. It's just that you have not tapped into that. And don't be afraid to not, to tap into it. And then when you're in a place that is, and this is something that I had to work on, when you're in a place that feels uncomfortable,
Oh, yes.
you understand what I'm saying? And certain, and it looks a little shaky, don't be afraid. You can't fear. And it's okay to have fear. It's okay to feel that feeling of fear, but don't let the fear stop you from moving forward, or let the fear paralyze you, right? Because a lot of times, and you've heard the acronym, fear is false evidence appearing to be real, right? A lot of times it's in our head.
It is.
And it's the things that's trying to keep us back from really moving into what we were already destined to become. I share with you that you even know that I've always had a desire to have the printing business, even when I graduated from Texas Southern, when I was on the campus, right? But why didn't I do that? Because it wasn't not only that I was feared, but I didn't have the confidence at the time to think that I could do that, right? And then at that time, I thought that, oh, it's important for me to, build my career and get my career going or whatnot, which it was important or whatnot. But also, it's okay that I could have started that business at that time too, right?
It's all about time.
But it's all about the timing as well
Yes.
too. But then also, it's about, I think, the key that I want to, I keep emphasizing because I keep hearing that confidence, having the confidence to move forward and knowing that you can do what it is that you want to do and set out to do. You got to be confident, and I think that's the key point. And just tune in because we talk about that, you and I, on the Reset chapter.
Oh, yes. We're talking about confidence and everything. So I'm so glad that you were open to share your story like you did. Because I remember when it first happened. And you were in what, about 4 years
Yes,
now?
this is about the 4th year. Yes.
And you're just really healing.
Yes.
And that's important for people to know too.
Yes.
And the reason why I wanted to highlight that is because healing comes in a time for, it's not the same for everybody.
Yes.
And I want to congratulate you for just to speak out on it, because a lot of people, they don't know that it was hard for you to even say. I remember the first time you said, I was let go. I was like, she said it. So those are things that, that's hard for a lot of people. And you did it, Nicole, and I'm so proud of you. Look at you stepping out and resetting. So now that we've gotten this conversation out, and like I said, thank you for sharing your story, I want to give you some tips, and others and our listeners tips on what does it really mean to restart? So restarting, it starts in your mind, of course.
Right.
You gotta be there, you gotta be ready.
Right.
But you don't always have to run back to corporate America. If that's your choice,
Right.
go ahead, go for it. But you can do this with the help of God, like you said.
Yes.
These are things I want you to know. Number one, go out and just find what it is you want to do
Yes.
and just start that LLC. Start it.
I agree.
Start it if you're a sole proprietor, or if you have parents or people who, siblings, or if you have, in my case, children. Partner with them so y'all can come together and make this even a family type thing. So get started. An LLC is a perfect way to start. That would be number one.
Yes.
Now, number two, a lot of people, this can help you in your personal life. Learn how to separate your finances.
Yes.
That's one of the things that a lot of small businesses, they don't start off that way. What I'm giving you today is how I want you to reset. Start off with the LLC. Start off with separating your expenses and your income. Go ahead and once you get that LLC, go open up a different bank account, a separate bank account just for business expenses. You know why? Because it's putting you on the path to where you can really trust yourself. I'm starting a business.
Yes.
You're starting it off right. Now, I've been in business for over 23 years, and the advice I'm giving you now, I didn't do it that way. and there's there's some stuff that comes with not doing it in the right way. So those are the first two things I want you to do. And a lot of us, we start in our home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Learn how to designate an area in your home to actually work.
Yes.
And it doesn't. A lot of people say, "Well, I don't have a computer. I don't have this. I don't have that." Use your phone, but dedicate a space in your home where you're going to work, where you can set up your video equipment. You can set up. You can just it's whatever you are doing. But if you're doing it in your home, learn how to use your home office as an expense, because a lot of people don't know that. So the tips that I'm giving you now is helping you to restart. Another thing I want you to learn how to do is learn how to document your expenses.
Very important.
Documenting meaning you need some type of software. You need. I am an advocate for QuickBooks, and the reason why is because it's really user friendly. It's for people who are just starting out, and what it does is it's. I always say if you can teach this to a third grader, then you're doing something good because you don't want to make it complicated. Using a software like QuickBooks, it has a little house on it. And that means go to home when you want to start over. So it won't allow you to make a lot of mistakes. So you need to start tracking your income and your expenses. And the reason why is because sometimes you'll spend money on things and you'll say, I didn't even know that was a deduction. Case in point, talking to one of my clients not long ago, and they are in the entertainment business. And they buy all these outfits and costumes and things of that nature. Those are actual expenses. It's an expense. It's your uniform because you can't necessarily do your work without it. So learn what expenses are out there and make sure you're tracking them accordingly. One other thing about QuickBooks is that once you make that transaction one time, if you put in food and entertainment and you see that it's that a restaurant or whatever, it'll automatically put those things underneath there. So these are some tips that I want you to understand and to learn. And the last thing that I want you to get is, it's not good to do this alone. You have to have someone to talk to. Now, you need to talk to the tax strategist. I am the one who's going to get you right. But the reason why I say that is that doing this alone is not good, because you can come to me and I can tell you, oh, Nicole, did you write off this? Did you write off that? Did you know this was a tax write-off? So,
and actually you have. So
yes,
I'm a witness to that.
So that's what I mean. So do not go at this alone. You need someone to coach you along the way, and you need someone to make sure that you strategize your business. So thank you so much for listening, Nicole, to my little rant, and also thank you for being here. And I hope that some of the tips that I've given today and also your story inspire our listeners So when they're ready to get a reset, that they're going to be ready to be on the right path. So
Absolutely.
thank you once again for being here, and girl, you did it. I'm so proud
Thank
of
you
you.
so much.
And I'm ready for the next episode of the reset chapter.
Yes, absolutely.
Starting over doesn't mean that you lost. It means that you are rerouting to something greater. And to my tax flow to cash flow family, if we said something that blessed you, please like, comment, and subscribe. And be sure to share this with someone that you know could be blessed by this episode. Now, remember, catch me on the next episode when we talk about all things financial. See you on the next episode.